What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Outspoken Diva, and you are now tuned into my podcast. On today's podcast, I would like to touch on a very touchy topic. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it because they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, and they're worried about what people will say about them. And that topic is depression. I myself suffer from depression, so I know exactly what it's like firsthand to have to deal with the ins and outs of it. And today, I would like to read to you a piece that I put together. It's a detailed version of how my life is with depression and how I handle it. It's a little lengthy, but it's worth listening to, and I'm going to jump right into it. For years, I've been battling with this invisible illness. I kept it to myself because I didn't want to be judged. I also figured that people would look at me differently and maybe they wouldn't believe me. Where I'm from, if people can't tell with their own eyes that you're hurt, that illness doesn't exist. I hid it from my doctor. What's even more crazy, I hid it from the man I've been with almost half of my life, and I am 38 years old. I woke up one day and said, enough is enough. It's time that I put this in the open so that I could finally face my issues. October 2020 is the year I was medically diagnosed with depression, and I am now ready to tell my story. The year was 2004, and I had just found out that I was pregnant with my oldest son. This was one of the happiest moments of my life. Before I knew it, my emotions were all over the place. I just figured that my hormones were out of control due to my pregnancy. Little did I know, I was in for a huge surprise. September 2004 is the month I gave birth. I was so happy. A few weeks later, I realized that I was still having the same emotional issues. I was crying all the time, I wanted to stay to myself, and I started shutting everyone out. I thought it was postpartum depression. I read that after giving birth, it could happen and it was natural. After a year went by, I knew it wasn't depression. When I had my first real episode, I was at home alone because my boyfriend at the time had to work. All of a sudden, a wave of emotions hit me out of nowhere and I started to cry. I cried so hard I instantly had a headache. I didn't want to eat anything. The only thing I wanted to do is spend time with my baby and sleep. My baby gave me comfort, and it seemed like he was the only one that helped me keep it together. That didn't last too long, though, because shortly after that, I tried to commit suicide by taking a bunch of pills. I didn't know what was going on with me mentally, but I felt like if I ended my life, my problems would just go away. I didn't realize it then, but now that I look back on that moment, I am glad my attempt at suicide failed. It just wasn't my time. After some time, I started having panic attacks. If you've ever had a panic attack, you understand exactly how this feels. Your heart starts to beat fast, you start sweating, and it instantly feels like you can't breathe. I've had so many, I've learned how to cope with them, the same way I learned to cope with my depression. I hid my depression behind a fake smile. I would walk around all the time as if I didn't have a care in the world. No one could tell I was sick mentally. If you deal with anything for too long, you learn to adapt. I know that it's not a good thing to do, but it helped me protect myself from the outside world that was so cruel. My depression had become so bad, I started to lash out on my spouse. He thought I was crazy. We would be in a great place, and the next thing you know, I'm jumping down his throat over some bullshit. After it was all over, I did feel bad, but within that moment, what I did felt right. He adapted to my ways and had no idea what my problem was. He just knew that once I started going off, to let me calm down and stay out of my way. This depression had taken over my life. Even to this very day, I still suffer with it, and that's why I've taken the necessary steps to work on me. It's just crazy how depression sneaks up on you without you realizing it. The one thing that people should understand is that depression doesn't always come from trauma. That's what some people think when they hear that someone is depressed. My upbringing wasn't perfect, but I didn't experience any kind of trauma. My mom and my grandmother made sure I had everything I needed. They also made sure I felt loved. I had love from my entire family, but I still ended up having depression. You have people that you can look at and tell they have depression because they make it obvious. You also have ones like myself with hidden depression. People with hidden depression were wearing masks way before this pandemic started. We go out and we have the biggest smiles ever. It seems like we're always happy. Every single time someone sees us and asks how we're doing, we always say we're doing good or life couldn't be better. We're the main ones that love to give advice and we're great at it too. We have all the answers in the world when it comes to someone else's issues, but we can't seem to manage our own. I swear we hide it so well, but once we get behind closed doors, it feels like the world has come to an end. Once we're home and not around anyone, we release our emotions. It could be through crying or just locking ourselves in our rooms. Some people find comfort in masking that pain. Some people will get drunk because they think it'll take their pain away, when in reality, all it does is put a band aid on that wound, and once you're sober, that cycle starts all over again. Some people are emotional eaters. We eat because it's like a comfort for us. We know that we shouldn't eat as much as we do, but it makes us feel so much better. The next thing you know, you've gained weight. Now you're even more depressed because you ate all that food during your depression and gained weight. Now you're unhappy with the way you look, and it makes you eat even more. To the average person, this sounds crazy, but to someone with depression, it sounds like a regular day. My advice to anyone dealing with depression is to speak to someone and get some help. Seek some kind of therapy, even if it's talking to someone that you can trust and will allow you to vent to them. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, there's nothing wrong with going to see a therapist. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're crazy if you do. Seeing a therapist will help you get what you're feeling off your chest. They can give you the comfort that you're looking for. It's not good to hold those things inside because it can make you feel much worse. I want you to put your best foot forward and take the necessary steps that you need to take for your well-being and your mental health. Stop putting everyone else's needs before your own for a change. It's okay to be selfish. Take some time to yourself so that you can become a better version of you, and anyone that you lose in the process isn't meant to be in your life in the first place. Love yourself enough to work on you because you can't give your best if you're not at your best. If you or anyone you know is suffering from depression, please don't hesitate to call Mental Health Depression Hotline at 1-866-307-9370, and their service is 24 hours. If you or anyone you know is suffering from having suicidal thoughts, please don't hesitate to call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255, and their service is also 24/7 24/7 phone service. Sorry about that. Always remember that you're never alone. There's so many people in this world that deal with depression, and it's crazy. Like I said in my story, I didn't know that I was dealing with it at first. I thought it was postpartum depression. I blocked out a lot. I guess I didn't want to face the reality that I had something going on mentally. So I lashed out at other people, and it wasn't right, but I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew that I had a lot of built up anger. I was sad all the time. My emotions were everywhere, and I just needed to get it out. And unfortunately, I took that anger out on the people that were close to me. And to be honest, that's probably part of the reason why my relationship almost failed, because I didn't know how to handle my anger. I didn't know how to handle all those emotions. And when I didn't know how to handle those emotions, I picked fights with my spouse. And let me tell you, these were some of the dumbest fights. Now that I look back on it, none of it was worth it. But at that time, like I said, I didn't know what was going on. It just felt right. And I had to get it out. Thankfully, even with the hiccups, we still made it. Nobody is perfect. But I can own up to my end on why things went the way they did. I was a basket case. And that's not even exaggerating. My emotions were everywhere. Everywhere. And they were uncontrollable. And that's why I took the necessary steps to get me some help, because I was tired of hiding it. I was tired of holding it in. I was tired of being locked up in my room all the time. I was tired of not interacting with my husband, not interacting with my kids. I just got tired of it. And I knew I had to do something about it, and I did. And now I'm feeling much better. I still have my days where, it's a little iffy and I lock myself up in my room, but then I snap to it and I go out in my living room. I spend time with my husband and my kids. We have family time. Now I bought a Uno game. My kids love playing Uno. So we've been doing that quite a bit. But yeah, I'm coping with my depression really well. I'm proud of me. And like I said in my story, if you're dealing with depression, please get help. It is not good to hold it in. It will only tear you up from the inside out. And that's all I have for today, ladies. Everyone have an awesome day.